This clock shows that I have 19 minutes. Is that what you want? Okay, good evening. Thanks a lot for this recognition, although when they first shared with me, I said I don't deserve it because I'm a retired IT guy, although I'm very actively involved in advising on IT, but not an operating manager. But I'm using technology extensively to bring happiness to 7 million children. I think that is giving me a completely different kind of a joy. And I was just talking to Ranga, and he was also talking about the fact that he quit 12, 13 years ago to attempt to do something different. And I think it's a joyful journey, which is what I'm embarked on. And thank you for this recognition. And greatly appreciate an opportunity of meeting all of you now and over cocktails and dinner and exchanging notes on what you are struggling with and how you can overcome that. I've been asked to talk about a subject which is very close to my heart, which is around leveraging innovation for transformation. And I start that journey of thinking with a story. And the way the story goes, let me try and get a time check in because the clock is not giving me a time check. Okay. So the way the story goes is that there were a couple of ants sitting in a shared services forum, and they were talking with each other and talking about the joys of life and saying how life is good. But they were very ambitious ants. And so one of them got up and said, you know what, I want to be the biggest CEO the world has seen. And everybody clapped, that's a great ambition. The second ant says, actually, I'm very a sports enthusiast, and I want to be the fastest ant. I want to be faster than Usain Bolt. And the third ant said, you guys are lazy guys. You know what, I like to be richer than Mukesh Ambani, right? I like the house, and I like a house which is twice that size, and I like a marriage which is also twice that size. So all these ants were having these conversations and talking about their aspirations and feeling good about it, but there was this one Johnny ant which was looking outside the window with leg up and laughing her head off. And these guys went up to him and saying, what are you doing? Why are you laughing? And why are you ignoring all our aspirations and ambitious statements? And you can learn a lot from that. And she turned to them and saying, I'm laughing because I don't want to be an ant anymore. I want to be a butterfly. And the day a person recognizes that there are 6 billion ants in the world, and being one more ant will not help you or the world, is the day a butterfly is born. Transform, as the word says, is to change the form of something permanently. It's not incremental in nature. It is changing the form of something permanently. And if you want to be in the business of transformation, whether it is your life, whether it is your children's life, or whether it's your team, whether it's your company, if you are in the business of transformation, you cannot do that by being an ant. So the first question of the evening you need to ask is that if you do not wish to engage in conversations around transformation only at the language level, but want to think deeper about how it impacts you and people around you, then the first thing you have to stop is thinking like an ant. So let's start this journey of trying to think about how we can be transformers ourselves, how we can be butterflies in our own respective life. And I always believe that butterflies and ants are not about successes and failures, but it is better to attempt something and fail rather than attempt something which everybody else has done before. So let's try with a theoretical framework first, because you come from shared services, you always like a framework, and we heard a few frameworks before. So I will give you a definitional framework, and then we will walk into this journey of what potentially could get you there. The definitional framework is the definition of a high performance team or a high performance individual, or a high impact team and a high impact individual. A high performance or a high impact individual or a team is one which does stuff which others consider impossible. So if you are in the business of doing stuff which others consider impossible, then you are a high performance team or a high impact individual. Now, the only way you can do the impossible, or what others consider impossible, is by spending significant time attempting it. And therefore, it is very important for us to now dig into what is impossible. And if you understand that definition of impossible, and understand that if you are attempting the impossible long enough, hard enough, you would have an opportunity to be a high impact individual or a team, and hence a butterfly. The definition of impossible comes from a magician. When a magician does a trick in front of you, he cuts a girl into half, flies her off, or throws sand on you and vanishes, or brings in a helicopter on the stage, you call it impossible. The reason you call the magic trick impossible is because it is outside your boundaries of logic and reason. But it is within the boundaries of logic and reason of the magician. So the trick of the impossible is to try and make more and more things within your boundaries of logic and reason by stretching those boundaries of logic and reason. If you keep yourself, your thought, your actions, your aspirations, within the boundaries of logic and reason, there is no way impossible will happen, and there is no way transformation will happen. So the question is, how do you stretch the boundaries of logic and reason despite the fact that everybody around you will tell you it is impossible? How do you learn the art of turning around to those sets of people and saying, that is exactly why I'm doing it, because it is impossible? And how do you increase your chances of success in trying to make that possible? I come down to 5 ideas. And none of these are short ideas, but I think if you think about these ideas, maybe it will trigger some thought in your mind for you to transform yourself as you walk away from this meeting tonight. And think about issues with what I call a different tangent. The first originates from a story of my childhood. I was about 7 years old. My father was an employee of National Environment Research Institute in Nagpur, and we got transferred. He got a job in the university in Pantnagar, which is in the foothills of Himalayas. And we were on a train journey from Nagpur to Pantnagar, and the train stopped at Ratlam station. We were on a second class or third class compartment at that particular time, and it was pretty hot. And I somehow was awake. I was in the topmost berth of the train, because there is where we were 3 brothers, so your mother and father will throw you up so that you're safe. So I decided to get down, not only from my berth, but from the train. So I was at the station, and it was a fascinating view. It was really fascinating, and the reason is that the stations have always attracted me. My grandfather was selling cigarettes on the station, and therefore he would take me whenever I go on a holiday to his place. He'll take me to the stations. Always railway stations have fascinated me because it's a humanity coming together in a form and shape which you don't see anywhere else. So while I was fascinated with what was happening, the train started moving. And when I looked back and the train was moving, I was pretty confident that I would be able to catch it because I was cocky, I was confident, and as you would know, nothing has changed. So the moment the train started moving, I started running behind the train, pretty confident I'll catch it. I caught hold of the pole and pulled myself up, only to realize that when you have running feet and you are a 7-year-old, you don't have the strength in the arm to pull yourself up on the train. So I fell. That is the first time I experienced what I call doubt. Till that time, I didn't have any doubt about anything in my life. But I got up and I decided to run after the train once again. This time, I pushed myself harder, pulled myself harder, and fell harder. And this is the first time a new word came to my head: fear. But I got up, I ran again, pushed harder, pulled harder, fell harder. Panic. This is the time I had a choice to make. Now it was very clear that the train was running faster than I could run. It was clear that there is no way I could pull myself on the train. And therefore I had a choice to stand and cry for help or to run after that impossible train which I had no chance to catch. I don't know what came to my mind, but I decided to run after the train. So I started running again. And this time I was clear that I had fear, I had doubt, I had panic, and yet I ran behind an impossible train. And from the corner of my eyes, I saw this lady who was selling vegetable vendor. She was selling kakadis. She ran, caught hold of my knicker, and threw me in the guard compartment. And that was the last compartment, and she threw me there. And sheepishly, I joined my parents, and I don't know what life would be if I had not joined them. But the learning from that moment were two big moments for me. Number one is that if you are not chasing impossible trains in life and taking chances which appear to be impossible, unreasonable, irrational, nobody will throw you on a train you don't belong. But if you are chasing, if you're in the business of chasing impossible trains, then there are some trains somebody will throw you which you don't belong. And therefore, the first principles of doing the impossible or transforming your life, your teams, your company is take chances. And if you take enough chances, I truly believe there is a possibility of the impossible happen. And actually, that story of the train, we'll come back to Sampark Foundation in a bit, is when Sampark Foundation was also born. That we actually at Sampark Foundation are doing exactly that. Are in the business of trying to throw people on trains, on the education train, on the life train, where people have given up. They don't think they belong. So the first principle was to try and take chances. The second is complete irrationality of expectation. If you are rational, if you can have expectations which can be computed on an Excel sheet, then forget being a butterfly, forget transformation. There has to be a complete irrationality of expectations from yourself first. There is nothing rational about it. I was in a small town. When my father died pretty early, we had only 312 rupees in our bank account. We were 3 brothers. I was still in school. And there was a huge irrationality in the expectation which my mother had from the family, and slowly that seeped into us, and saying we will not only survive, but we as a family will do extremely well. There was never a doubt in our mind, and there was never a doubt in my mind. I did not know what I would do, but I did know that whatever I would do, it would be good. And therefore, that irrationality of expectation is it's not ambition. I'm not a big fan of ambition because I don't understand what ambition is. Ambition is a statement of intent, and intent is not good enough. I believe that you will always underperform your aspiration. So what is your aspiration? If your aspiration is not irrational, if I had not inspired, if you know, so I joined HCL in 1985. I got fired in 3 months' time, and then I had a irrational dream of starting my own company, which grew to multi-billion dollars. I had an irrational dream of transforming HCL, and we did that. We took it from $1.4 billion market cap to about $20 billion market cap today. I had an irrationality of expectation of the fact that we can transform learning outcomes for rural children in 76,000 schools for 7 million children. All these are irrational. Only if you have irrational expectations from yourself, from your team, from your purpose, from your goal, you have a chance to succeed. So the second mantra for success, if you want to be in transformation, is to have irrationality of expectation. The third is, the whole word called imperfection. What is happening when you look around yourself, you will find that you are resource starved. You don't have the right set of people, you don't have the right amount of money, you're not in the right market, you don't have the right products, you don't have the right mandate from the board, and therefore, what I call it as an imperfect environment. And one of the things which many people realize who are transformers is the reason they are born and the reason they are transformers is because they thrive in imperfect worlds. If everything was perfect, why would you succeed? So a diamond cutter gets excited with rough diamond, not with polished diamond. A potter gets excited with rough clay, not with a made-up pot. And therefore, if you truly wish to transform your life, somebody else's life, business, profits, wherever you see imperfection, you should feel excited because there are very few people who can navigate through imperfection. And therefore, the art of getting excited about imperfection, the art of converting imperfection environment into positive actions of trying to make some sense out of that imperfection is the unique art of being a butterfly, is the unique art of being a transformer. The ants, when they see a wall in front of them, will turn right. A butterfly, when they see a wall in front of them, will say, this is the reason I was born. And therefore, will attempt to fly over the wall. How many professionals try and understand it? And the day you stop complaining about situations around you, the day you stop complaining about environment, resources, people, lack of it, attitudes, board approvals, environment, politics, and the sharper you focus your attention, imagine a plumber walking into a house to try and fix a leak where there is no leak. The plumber will be without a job. So the plumber is in the business of getting into houses which are full of leaks. And if you want to be a plumber in life, you have to learn the art of getting excited about houses with leaks. And the day you spot houses with leak, you should say, wow, now I know why I was born. So that's a third mantra. Take chances, irrationality of expectation, and try and get excited about imperfections. The fourth is a very interesting aspect, is that the manufacturing age was all about managing. The manufacturing era increased productivity by 10 times, predominantly because it was, and that is the birth of the ideas and the science of management, because it was about putting people together to deliver more than what an individual could do. So if 10 individuals could do, and you in shared services understand this very well, if 10 individuals could produce 10 individually, putting them together in a system, process, automation, technology would produce 100. Now, that all was in the manufacturing era, and therefore all the management principles which were born were for the manufacturing era, and we call that industrialization of our economy, industrialization. And that industrialization tremendously improved well for many, many people. But after that came the innovation age. The innovation age was not about organizing people to produce more, it was about organizing people to get more per unit of human capital, which was innovation. So the question in front of us was not how you put people together to drive productivity, drive efficiency, but how do you put people together to drive innovation? Now that was a very different question compared to the question which we had put ourselves before, and therefore most HR organizations failed, predominantly because they were always in the business of managing people who were not producing innovation, whereas they should be in the business of inspiring people to produce innovation. There is no art, there is no book, there is no course on how do you inspire people. But if you want to be an innovative organization, if you want to have innovation in new processes, innovation on doing new things, innovation on new culture, you need to inspire people. And there is where employee first, customer second was born. When we were in 2005, $1.4 billion, $700 million, $1.4 billion of market cap, $700 million of revenue, the question in front of 35,000 employees was, how do we transform ourselves? And the idea of transformation of ourselves was the fact that if we could be, as management, in the business of enthusing, encouraging, enabling the employees, and allow the employees who are customer facing to be in the business of creating unique experiences for our customers, we would be an innovative organization which would grow faster than our competition. So our journey from $700 million to $6 billion in the peak of recession, $1.4 billion of market cap to $20 billion market cap, was fulcrumed around a single idea. And that idea is, can you inspire 100,000 employees, which is where we ended, by inverting the organization pyramid and making the management accountable to the employees? So my appraisal for the 8 years I was in HCL Technology was done by 100,000 employees, and the results were published on the web for all to see. And it was a pre-declared idea that I would be fired by the employees and the board, but by the employees, if my rating went below 8 on a 9-point scale, I will lose the right to inspire them, lose the right to lead them, and therefore I will lose my job. So remember I talked about take chances with new ideas, have irrationality of expectations, get excited about the fact that HCL Technology was not doing well, and then get into the business of inspiring people, and they will do the rest. And that's exactly what Steve Jobs did. You know, books after books have been written about Steve Jobs, or Jack Welch for that matter, and every time you read, and there is nothing called good about both of them. Steve Jobs was an obnoxious manager, very difficult to work. But the reason people would work for him is he will take their benchmark completely up. Very good product design, and he will just rip it apart. He will not only rip it apart, he will physically destroy the product. And then the team will go back and come up with he will redefine everything. That's the reason his products are so beautiful. It's because he kept on pushing his team to define newer and newer benchmark for success. He redefined everything. He redefined looks, he redefined UI, he redefined everything. And same is true with Jack Welch. As far as Jack Welch was concerned, you are either number one in an industry or number two, or he sold the business. Throughout his 30 years, he sold every single business. The manager was not number one or number two. Irrational. Take chances. Push the team. But inspire them. Give them the opportunity to lead. Inspire them. But push them to do the impossible. You can't inspire them by taking them to a beer bar. You inspire them by attempting to do which nobody else has done before. And that is what Dhoni's trait was. He pushes his team. I mean, you look at the fitness levels. He pushes the team so hard. Or Ronaldo, or any of these great leaders you see, they push their team hard, they inspire them, and they inspire them with the vision of doing the stuff which nobody else has attempted to do before. And the last is the magic. All this happens and the magic comes together And the magic will come together because these are stuff which ants don't do. These are stuffs which butterflies do. And the way this magic comes together is in the story which I would share in the end of a grandmother, let me call her the Amma. When she walks up to a child and picks up a child in India, a newly born child, she picks up the child and defines a vision for the child. Your fingers are long and you will be an artist. Your forehead is broad and you'll be a NASA scientist. Or your legs are long and you will be a P.T. Usha or a Hussein Bolt. And everybody in the family believes in vision. There is no rationality of the vision. There is no data. There is no analysis. And yet, the grandmother, when she picks up and defines a vision for that girl, everybody believes it. It is irrational, yet everybody believes it. And that is the magic of being a butterfly. The day you define a vision for your team which is irrational, which is impossible, which is inspirational, and the day everybody believes in that vision, not in you, because you are irrelevant. You are this obnoxious guy who keeps pushing, but get inspired by the vision you have defined, that is the day the magic happens. That is the day a butterfly is born. That is the day a transformation happens. Happy transformation. Thank you. I'll be happy to take a few questions. I'm sorry. Do we have time? Okay. 1 or 2 questions, if there are any. Otherwise, we move on with the evening. Yes, there's a lady out there.
There's a very interesting book by Trina Paulus. I don't know whether you know of that, called Hope for the Flowers. I think what you're saying is very much, echoed there. The difference is that it is more about following a beaten track to reach the top, and it's like everyone trampling over each other, and then making a choice that no matter what is on top, I will not plod the trodden path to get there. I will try to transform into a butterfly, make the choice to give up everything in the hope that you will be able to do something better with your existence. And that book, I think, is an interesting, I have been in IT all along. I actually ran a training program around that book for my teams so that they could learn that, you don't have to indulge in office politics or, pull other people down to get ahead. I think you should, if you've not read it, that would be a book that, would resonate a lot with what you're saying.
I will do that. I have a suggestion for you.
Yep.
Take my book and do the next session.
I'll do that.
It'll be a unique experience.
I have read your book. and I will certainly do that. I was a colleague of Anant who succeeded you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And you must be also sometimes saying that things are not working out, but then the perseverance actually got to the next level. So what was your personal mantra to actually get to those imperfect situations?
Yeah, I don't think I have a personal mantra because I get frustrated very fast. So to me, finding meaningful life was very important. And my mother played a very important role in my life. And she defined this architecture for me, which actually is when I discovered stability, which I'll share with you. So she says that the fundamental need for you is going to be try and find financial security. And that definition of financial security is stretchable by many. There are lots of billionaires who still open the Forbes magazine to say, am I number 1, number 2? They will never be able to spend the billions, and their son-in-laws or daughter-in-laws will eat all of that. but they're still not satisfied. So when do you get satisfied with the financial security? You have enough. The second is need for recognition, that you are the best in your profession. You are a CFO, you're the best in class, or you are a technology guy, you're the best in class. And a lot of us have need for recognition to be the best in ourselves, and it is important to fulfill that need if you're a professional. And then you slowly realize that neither the financial security, neither the recognition gives you joy in life. What gives you joy in life is by touching other people's life, by transforming other people's life, by inspiring others, by the whole giving. Giving is not philanthropy, or giving is inspiring people, putting a hand around somebody, right? It means different thing to different people. And doing more and more of that, and you discover that actually that gives you a lot of joy. And then in the end, it is the fact that the recognition is the fact that you're not responsible for any of the bottom three, which is not a stage which I've reached to try and understand that it is not in your hands, you are a Karam Yogi. But as you walk through this journey, what I discovered is I was the most frustrated in the first pursuit, and I would get very upset. In my second pursuit also, I will get very upset. As I move to the third pursuit, I'm between my second pursuit and third pursuit, I discovered that my frustration is on the task, not on myself. And therefore, I can outthink the task. So it always becomes an intellectual challenge for me. In terms of if something comes up, I start thinking like a plumber. So yes, I feel frustrated, but there is a positive frustration, which was not what was there in the first two. So my advice to you is think carefully where you are. Try and move up the value curve as fast as possible, but fulfill all those needs. And then whenever you're faced with a situation which is very frustrating, try and rationalize it, and try and see if you can find the plumber among, within you, and that will help you deal with that situation better. Okay? Thank you. Yes, and you need to tell me when I need to stop.
Something similar. So many of us, I feel, sir, that we are living the lives of like those 6 billion ants. And to break that glass ceiling, you mentioned about these 4 things, but is also finding one's purpose, like you said, the meaning in life. How does one go about finding that purpose?
I think it's a wonderful question, and as a CEO of HCL Technology, I used to travel in private jets. So I will start at New York and gain the 3 hours and take many meetings and land in San Francisco to try and see if I can have a 12-hour day rather than an 8-hour day. And from there, traveling in Indigo to Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand was quite a change. And I think I still don't know my purpose in life. What motivates me is not purpose. I don't think, and I would say this, yes, it is the plight of the children which we are working with in Sampak Foundation. We are helping a lot of children, but I don't think that's the purpose of my life. What excites me is the fact that social innovation is an untouched subject. And if we can bring innovation in the way we deliver education, so we use an audio device, we use app, we use a very sophisticated, we are only about 150 employees, and yet we reach 76,000 schools. So we use the highly leveraged model. We deliver this in less than $1 per child per annum. I think the excitement of the innovation, the excitement of trying to solve a problem everybody else has said it is impossible to solve, try and solve it in a bootstrap fashion, try and solve it in a way nobody else has done before, is exciting. So I think if you are a professional, and you are, and you've worked in some of the brightest organizations, I think find intellectual stimulation by focusing on innovation that impacts human being rather than in the business of doing good. I think if professionals like you are only focused on doing good, you'll get bored. Because it is boring, and we did that. Me and my wife started Sampark Foundation in 2005. By 2012, we cut a lot of checks, but we didn't create any impact. Not that we have created an impact now. I don't know whether we've created or not, but at least now we're giving our time, our money, our resources, and everything, and we put all our energy behind that innovation, which is very critical. So as long as you focus on innovation, I think you'll, I think because we are ants of the corporate world. I'm also an ant, right? We are ants of the corporate world, but we feel excited about the innovative stuff which we have done in the corporate world. And therefore, if we can keep on doing that innovative world, I think we'll succeed. Yes.
Very motivating. One question, you shared your journey from 700 million to and 1.4 billion to 20 billion. So you were the CEO and you were taking a lot of decisions. So did any point of time the fear of failure, how did you overcome this? Because that's the most difficult thing we encounter as corporate leaders. There's always a fear of failure, taking decisions, and there's nobody to vet it, and we are not able to take it. So your journey has been remarkable, and you're a role model for many of us. Can you share some more insights on fear of failures and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think fear of failure is, if you're an adrenaline junkie, fear of failure is your drug, right? Because that gives you the kick. That gets you in your top agenda. For example, I was coming here. It was very important for me to get my message across. So was I nervous? Yes, this must be my 10,000th speech. But yes, because that gets you to think, that gets you to not just walk here with any message. So so that fear of failure is a very important ingredient to maintain. Otherwise, you get cocky, you stop listening. You are constantly, you're an explorer. Even Einstein, till his last date, was always exploring, was always afraid. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I wrong? And that's a very important aspect of success. The second thing which is very important is to try and understand that you are, in most situations, the wrong person for the right job. And you have to understand your irrelevance in the moment. And if you understand the irrelevance of the moment, that means you say, I don't have it, but somebody else has it. That is the time you discover why you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You start listening. You start surrounding yourself with smart people. You start looking for data. You start looking for words. You start looking for trends. You start looking at all that stuff, and you say, my business is not to know, my business is to connect the unconnected. So the day you realize the distinction and difference between knowledge, that I have more knowledge than you have, and the fact that I'm actually not knowledgeable, others are, therefore I will listen, but I will connect the stuff they have not connected before. So you can sit in the meeting, speak the least, but connect the most, and therefore your decisions will be the best. The day you understand it and you combine it with the fear of failure, magic happens. One last.
You have talked about the transformation that can be done, how we are doing, and you have also, through some perk, integrated large number of students into that. However, in schools, etc., I understand there is not so much of competition. They are delivering education, how can they do a better thing? And if I bring this concept of transformation to the industry, can you throw some light? How can we have a collaboration in competition? How can we have a collaborative innovation coming into this? Otherwise, we are all looking at as an individual, either the person or to the company. You can transform your company, you can have a winning edge, you can reach somewhere. But is that what is ultimately serving the humanity? Or say, for example, in India, if all the competitive people, say in auto industry, all the auto industry guys come together and then try and do a collaborative innovation and then move it, which probably would be more important when we come to the digitalization. And Industry 4 when we are reaching, I think this aspect could become a little more critical. Can we have your views on this?
Yeah, so my views are a bit controversial on this, and pardon my saying it, so the difference between monkeys and a lion, is a lion, once he scratches the trees, then he's alone. And the monkeys hang together. If you take any big innovator and any big innovation, most of them, not all, have not come out of collaboration. They have come from fierce competition. Steve Jobs hated Bill Gates, and that hate created the products he created. If he had collaborated with Bill Gates, I think he would have created the nonsense Apple is creating now. I think it is important to understand where does your motivation come from. And in human beings, competition creates motivation to inspire, to innovate, to be better. That's what Olympics is all about. That's what sports is all about, is to become the fastest, the best. Nobody. When the high jump was being done, the first guy to innovate was the guy who did the flip on the back, right? And that's how the world record was broken, and then continuously it was broken. So therefore, while collaboration is critical from an execution point of view, collaboration is not critical from a transformation and innovation point of view. The best collaborative innovations are Wikipedias, which are impactful but not great, Unix as an operating system, Linux as an operating system. These are good. These are great examples of collaboration. But if you look at what competitive spirit have created as innovators, which is Facebooks and Twitters and in healthcare, Johnson & Johnson, or the G engines, which are self-governing, all these innovators are coming out of competition. So I would believe that the spectrum of innovation is pro-competition, where you want to be the best compared to your neighbor, and the spectrum of execution is more collaboration. So depending on which industry you are in, what frame of reference you are in, that's the way I will look at it. Thank you. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Vineet, for such a insightful session. I think some of the Q&A also was very insightful. So thanks for your time, and thanks for such an insights. I'm sure we all would have really enjoyed it and had a lot of takeaways for us. I was seeing people making notes, maybe rational notes, but they are notes. And we all could relate with the ideas of ant to a butterfly, and we could relate with a lot of those thoughts. So thank you for those insightful conversation. Really, really appreciate that. And on behalf of Shared Services Forum, I request Ravi to pass on a memento of thank you to you for your time, Vineet.